In this video, I'm going to show you how to solve equations that have decimals by eliminating the decimals first. So in this first example, I have 2.5x minus 0.2 equals negative 4.2. Now we could solve this just by normal means if we wanted to, by adding 0.2 to each side and then dividing by 2.5. But I have this other way that you can do it if you choose, and many students prefer it this way, so I want to go ahead and show it. I know, for example, I'm going to bring my 0.2 over here to the side just to illustrate an idea. We know that when I multiply 0.2 times 10, you can throw in the calculator if you don't know, but basically you end up with 2. If I were to throw 2.5 times 10, I end up with 25. And if I were to do negative 4.2 times 10, you end up with a negative 42. And I'm just kind of doing this to illustrate the idea that when you take a value and multiply it by 10, we should see the pattern that that decimal is just really moving one place to the right. So that kind of illustrates if you weren't already aware of that. So what I can do in this example to get rid of my decimals is, as you know, you can multiply each side of your equation by 10, because you can do anything to one side of the equation as long as you also do it to the other. And so then 10 times 2.5x, once again we're going to move that decimal one place to the right, is 25x, minus 10 times 0.2 is just 2, and that's equal to negative 4.2 times 10. Move that decimal one place over and get negative 42. So from here, it's just a simple two-step equation. I'm going to add 2 to each side, and I get that 25x equals, what is that, negative 40, and then divide by 25 on each side, and I get x equals negative 40 over 25, which if I simplify that fraction, I believe a 5 will divide out of both my numerator and my denominator. I end up with negative 8/5. Okay, so there's your first example. I've got one more example here, so maybe what you want to do is hit pause and watch the video. Or excuse me, hit pause, try the problem out on your own, and whenever you're ready, hit play and I'll work through it. Okay, in this example, you may already notice that there's something different about it. In problem number 1, every term had one decimal place, but we see that my second term here on the left side of my equation has 2 decimal places. It's 2 and 51/100ths. So as you're going to see, that's going to change things, because we know that if I were to do this the same way we did the previous one, which is multiplying by 10 on each side, here multiplying by 10 would only move that decimal over one place, and it wouldn't completely eliminate our decimals here. So it's almost like, why are we even doing it if I'm going to multiply by 10 and still have to deal with decimals? So maybe there's some number other than 10 that you can multiply both sides of your equation by that would get rid of this decimal. So some of you are probably already thinking of it, and if you guessed 100, you're exactly right. But I'm going to multiply each side of this equation by 100. 0.4, remember, now that I multiply by 100, the decimal moves 2 places, so I have 40, plus this decimal, when multiplied by 100, moves 2 places, 251x, and that's going to be equal to negative 3.2 times 100, move it 2 places, negative 320. So, solving for x, I'm going to subtract 40 from each side, and I have that 251x equals negative 360, divide by 251 on each side, and I'm not even sure what that would be, so let's throw that in our calculator. Negative 360 divided by 251. I'm going to round to the third decimal place. Should be x equals negative 1.434. So, to recap this video, what we did is we learned a strategy that whenever I'm solving problems involving decimals, you can multiply by 10 to move the decimal one place, 100 to move it 2 places, or really you can multiply by any multiple, well, I shouldn't say any multiple of 10, but 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 to move the decimal the appropriate number of places. Once you do that, you have problems that don't involve decimals, and you might prefer to do it that way because it's a little easier to manipulate.